Hello everyone. In the recent debate between Mohammed Hijab and William Lane Craig, essentially Hijab basically contradicted or misrepresented William Lane Craig on a couple of different occasions despite repeated clarification offered to him for whatever reason. And I wanted to explore one of those situations here in this video. Essentially, did William Lane Craig offer a three-headed dog as a thorough analogy of the Trinity? That's something Hijab asserted to be the case, despite William Lane Craig repeatedly saying, no, that's not what I said. So I wanted to unpack that situation for you to try and for you to see whether Hijab was lying at the face of clear clarification offered to him, or was he just dumb, clueless, who doesn't understand simple English statements made to him. So let's begin unpacking this situation. So it began at a point where Hijab, clearly who has read William Lane Craig's work, essentially refers to the fact that William Lane Craig, at some stage, in his, according to Hijab, offered a three-headed dog as an analogy for the Trinity himself.
If you can see on the camera, this is exactly what you've written in your article, that God is like a three-headed dog. You got 1, 2, 3, okay? And just as there's one body and three heads, the Trinity is the same thing. It's one body and three different heads. That's what you've said.
William Lane Craig, in his response to this comment by Hijab, clarified and he said, hey, I wasn't offering a three-headed dog as an analogy for the Trinity himself, but rather I was saying you can begin thinking about the Trinity. It can trigger you. It could be a springboard for you to think about the Trinity by thinking about this three-headed dog. Clearly, it was just the starting point. So he made that point clear. See this exchange here.
Now, the example I used of Kerberos, Mr. Hijab, I think has been greatly misunderstood. That is not intended to be an analogy to the Trinity. That was meant to be a springboard for thinking about what it means to be three persons in one being. And so I thought of this mythical dog in the Labors of Hercules guarding the gates of Hades, which has three heads, so presumably three brains, so three states of consciousness of what it's like to be a dog. And then based on that, I endowed them with self-consciousness and personhood. And my position would be that you have, in that case, three persons.
So the clarification can't be clearer. For anyone who is paying attention, it would have been very, very clear. And if someone else, sensible and truthful, were in Hijab's shoes, he would have stopped the point right there instead of misrepresenting William Lane Craig further. But what did Hijab do? He continued misrepresenting. What did he do? He tried to pick the quote that he had of William Lane Craig and he began to read. And at the end of the reading, he insisted that William Lane Craig offered this as an analogy for Trinity himself. But note carefully, what he read was crystal clear again. In other words, not just William Lane Craig's clarification during the debate, but also even the work that the work of William Lane Craig, which Hijab was quoting, itself was clear enough. The statement went to say something like, you can start thinking about this by looking at this analogy. In other words, the analogy was meant to be only as a starting point analogy, clearly not an analogy for Trinity Trinity himself. So what he read should have clarified that again. More importantly, he has read this pre-debate, so he shouldn't have even had this confusion to begin with. So the question is, was Hijab a liar? Or was he just clueless, can't understand simple English statements, just dumb? See this for yourself.
perhaps we can get a start at this question by means of
Yes, a
an
start,
analogy. That's what
Mr. Hijab. That's a
Sorry?
springboard to thinking about
Doctor.
it.
It got worse. It's not just that Hijab didn't understand what was clearly said in William Lane Craig's work, which he has clearly researched pre-debate. It's also that he would not take the clarification, a simple clarification offered during the debate by William Lane Craig, which was consistent with his work. And he simply would not even give in to his own reading again after a clarification has been made. He would then go on to seal it all up through an accusation and a slander towards William Lane Craig. What did he end up saying? He ended up essentially saying that William Lane Craig provided this as an analogy but would deny that at that time because it was embarrassing. In other words, he just wanted to, at the face of everything standing up against him, wanted to come across as he was winning and couldn't care less about what the truth was. See, the accusation and the slander, he ended the entire thing in this.
I understand, but you denied in your response there that this was an analogy, and
Right.
you've written in your written work that this is perhaps we can get a start at this question by means of an analogy, and then you mentioned Cerberus as the analogy. So the point is this: I know it's difficult, I know it's very embarrassing.
So clearly, William Lane Craig hadn't offered a three-headed dog as a complete analogy for Trinity, but rather merely as a starting point to think about Trinity. But Hijab just would not let the point go because that's what he had prepared for and that's what he would deliver, to come across as someone who has emphatically won for at least the Muslim audience. And before I go, let me say this. It's time to leave Islam and it's time to come to the precious Lord Jesus Christ. If you don't do that, you will become a laughing stock like what Muhammad Hijab has become. Not just with the debate gone, but with various engagements that he has had in the past and he will continue having unless he leaves behind this, fallacious, brainwashing religious system called Islam. Thank you very much.